Ah, what a lovely day it is today. I've been gone a few days to focus on doctor's appointments and my health, but I'm sure the internet will be fine. And people finally noticed YouTube demonetization. GG no re Murphy's Law OP. This was going to happen eventually, so it's time to make a TLDW Cliff Notes version for those of you that want to have a clear picture of the events in just a few minutes, rather than watching a dozen 10-minute or more videos with potentially conflicting points. This video is intended for people that are confused by the sea of panic and misinformation, and multiple videos made by people over the course of the past week without possessing all the information, or for those of you who simply haven't wanted to dedicate the time to the many lengthy videos on the subject, and want a relatively short Cliff Notes version of what's transpired in one video. 1. What is YouTube demonetization and why am I hearing about it? YouTube has for a long time tried to be more appealing to advertisers and be more marketing company friendly, and has repeatedly adjusted systems ranging from DMCA claims to content ID matching to monetization rights, usually in a sloppy and ineffective manner and at the expense of producers that make certain types of content or videos such as news reviews, tutorials, or educational videos, music videos, etc. Recently they updated the demonetization notification system, which led to people suddenly receiving many notices that videos were being demonetized for not being advertiser-friendly. This is as opposed to what they've been doing as far back as 2012, which was mysteriously disabling monetization without notification and having the video, if the appeal was rejected, provide no clear answer as to why. This made a lot of YouTubers freak out since they were suddenly bombarded with demonetization notices and thought YouTube had entered a new, dark age of censorship. Since a lot of people whose demonetized videos were demonetized months or even years prior, they were all bombarded with notifications at once, which caused a lot of panic because people added demonetization counts from months to years ago into the numbers of videos demonetized recently, since they were both reported at the same time. 2. Is this demonetization by YouTube censoring people? Sort of. It depends on how you define censorship. Demonetization doesn't block the video or block people from watching the video, but it is a deliberate attempt by YouTube to push content creators in the direction of making their content more advertiser-friendly, as YouTube defines advertiser-friendly, via threatening the content creator's revenue. And it disproportionately affects certain kinds of content over others, so certain channels will be impacted more than others. However, the system is so sloppy and inefficient that actual progress of the recent changes intent on that goal, relative to what they've been doing for years now already, is going to be minimal by comparison. Non-friendly content is basically defined as an all-encompassing net, including swearing or talking about controversial issues or news, and there's no definition to what controversial means from a policy enforcement standpoint. Most of YouTube's attempts at setting up automated content policing, including the latest demonetization updates, have resulted in mass-friendly fire incidents which is so sloppy it's not going to incentivize good behavior or to follow the advertiser-friendly suggestions, because a person that makes friendly content is about as likely to be demonetized as someone making unfriendly content, so there's very little distinction. I'd like to take you on a short tour of some of my videos to illustrate this. I'm very familiar with how cults operate and know a good bit about counterterrorism, insurgency, and the like. I have several videos talking about the Islamic State and insurgencies in general, as well as related subjects, to try to make that knowledge more publicly available. For example, I have a video talking about healthcare and the Senate Intelligence Committee report on torture, and the importance of having an infirmary at black sites. I have a video talking about why organizations like to fund rebel and insurgency groups. I have a video talking about how practical assassinations are. I have a video talking about how ISIS recruits young boys and convinces them to become suicide bombers, and why young boys are such a preferred demographic for suicide bombers. I have a video talking about how public perception of supervillain lairs in the James Bond Hollywood versions differ from construction of real-life black sites. 3 of the videos I just listed were demonetized within 24 hours of being uploaded, despite the supervillain one being 10 months old. The insurgency one is one of those demonetized videos, but was identified by YouTube as being relevant to the video game Insurgency. So what YouTube's bots are actually doing is a bunch of different categories are looked at, and if one comes up as potentially inappropriate, it demonetizes the video, and other things the bot sees are not considered evidence in the video's favor. So being identified as the game Insurgency and being in the game category still means the video is related to actual insurgencies and is demonetized anyway, even though the YouTube bots already marked it as about the video game. As a consequence of this, if I ever discuss the Senate Intelligence Committee report on torture, or talk about ISIS or counterterrorism, or even use a word in the tags that might be considered related to a controversial subject, it's a dice roll on if the video is demonetized, and things that would rule these things out under a better automated system are just ignored because the system is so crude and sloppy. This includes, for example, an old class education tutorial video I made for the video game PlanetSide 2 back in 2012. The video was marked by YouTube's bots as related to PlanetSide 2, the video game, but was still, long ago, I remind you, rejected for monetization. The result for me was the demonetization problem became so bad that if I had a word in the tags or title that could plausibly, possibly be construed to tangentially be related to something controversial, it was basically a crapshoot on if the video could be monetized at all, which forced me to launch a Patreon, and I go into some greater detail on the specifics of that in the Patreon launch video, which I will link in the description if you're so inclined to learn more specifics. That video is about 5 minutes long. Moving on to question 3. Are the recent changes going to improve YouTube or make things worse, and is YouTube going in a direction of censorship that could affect the future of the site? Plausibly. I wouldn't say it's a justification for all the panic, because this is merely the latest small addition of frustration YouTube has had, which, as time goes on, may make it gradually more appealing to produce content externally or move videos elsewhere, though YouTube might get its act together once a competitor started obtaining any amount of market share. The only thing that's going to cause the death of YouTube is YouTube's own stupidity. Some larger YouTubers seem to believe the system's appeal process has been upgraded, but I think some of these larger YouTubers are unintentionally misrepresenting it. Yes, a major YouTuber receiving a notification can now appeal it and get that appeal heard because they know to file one, and they may get a response quickly, so things are better for them now that they have a notification to act on. However, I've noticed a lot of larger channels frame that as if this were a benefit to the little guy, quote-unquote, and some seem to have forgotten that larger YouTubers get priority on having those appeals responded to, and smaller channels can have their appeals sit in limbo permanently and will never be responded to. For example, these are the same 2 ArcH videos I cited in my Patreon launch video 8 months ago when I cited they had been left in an under-review appeal for over a year. They're both still waiting under review today after these changes, so saying the appeal process for sorting out demonetization has improved for YouTubers is not really accurate. It's improved for larger YouTubers that can file an appeal and have it actually be responded to via the larger YouTuber priority queue rather than having it placed in a lower priority queue for several years. Smaller channels might be able to be a bit more lucky with the queue being more active, but that's the extent of it. A few more smaller people might get lucky, maybe. I know I'm not one of those lucky little guys with my videos. Thank you for watching my video. I hope it provided you with an effective summary version of the incident. And I normally don't ask for this, but in this case, please consider sharing the video so we can have less people running around like chickens with their head cut off. And I'll see you next time. Later, YouTube.